Good evening, everyone. Let me ask you something. Have you ever worked on a team where everything just clicked, where the energy was contagious, the late nights didn't feel so late, and the challenges felt like opportunities? Now think about the opposite. A job where every conversation felt like a battle, where you had to convince people to care, and where the work, no matter how important, felt like a grind. The difference? Belief. Belief is one of the most powerful forces in the world. It shapes movements, builds companies, and unites people in a way that nothing else can. When we talk about belief in the workplace, we're not talking about blind optimism or wishful thinking. We're talking about a deep, unwavering commitment to a purpose that goes beyond personal gain. It's about something bigger than the individual, something that drives behavior, decision-making, and culture. When people believe in what they do, they show up differently. They put in extra effort, not because they have to, but because they want to. They take ownership of their work, not because someone is watching, but because they care about the outcome. Belief creates a sense of responsibility that no rulebook or management style can replicate. People who believe in the mission of their company don't need to be micromanaged. They don't need constant external motivation. They don't need reminders about why their work matters. They already know, and that changes everything. In organizations where belief is absent, work becomes transactional. People clock in and clock out, doing the minimum required to meet expectations. They focus on job descriptions rather than impact. They wait to be told what to do instead of taking initiative. In these environments, you see an abundance of policies, oversight, and accountability measures, not because people aren't capable, but because without belief, external enforcement becomes necessary to keep things moving. Compare that to an environment where people genuinely care about the mission. Suddenly, rules become guidelines rather than restrictions. Processes exist to support progress rather than control people. Leadership shifts from authority-based management to inspiration-based guidance. Belief fuels purpose, and purpose fuels resilience. Challenges will always exist. Setbacks will happen. There will be moments of doubt, uncertainty, and failure. But when people believe in something greater than themselves, they persist. They find creative solutions. They adapt and overcome. They don't abandon ship at the first sign of trouble because they see the bigger picture. This is why the best teams, the best leaders, and the best organizations don't just look for talented people. They look for people who believe. There is a fundamental difference between someone who is working for a paycheck and someone who is working toward a purpose. The former will do what's required, the latter will go beyond expectations. The former is content with compliance, the latter seeks excellence. When belief is present, people feel personally connected to the work. It becomes a reflection of their values, their integrity, and their aspirations. They don't work harder because they have to. They work harder because they are part of something they believe in. Think about the moments in life when you've been fully engaged. Chances are, those were the moments when you believed in what you were doing. It might have been a project, a cause, or even a conversation. Belief fuels engagement because it connects our work to something meaningful. This is why people who love what they do often say it doesn't feel like work. It's not that the tasks are easy or that the days aren't long, it's that they're deeply connected to the purpose behind them. When companies and teams prioritize belief, everything changes. Recruitment becomes about finding the right people, not just the most qualified people. Retention improves because people don't leave environments where they feel connected to a purpose. Leadership becomes easier because when people believe in the mission, they don't need constant oversight, they lead themselves. Innovation flourishes because people feel empowered to think beyond limitations. Customer relationships improve because belief is contagious and people naturally trust those who are genuinely passionate about what they do. Belief also creates a sense of belonging. Humans are wired for connection, and when we find people who believe what we believe, we feel a sense of home. Teams that share a common purpose become more than just colleagues, they become a community. And in that community, trust is built, ideas are shared, and great work happens. People support each other not because they have to, but because they want to see each other succeed. They share knowledge freely, give credit generously, and take accountability willingly. It's important to understand that belief isn't something you can force. You can't impose it with rules, bonuses, or motivational speeches. Belief must be cultivated. It starts with clarity. People need to know what the mission is and why it matters. Then it requires consistency. Leaders and organizations must live by the values they preach. And finally, it requires alignment. People must feel that their personal values align with the purpose of the organization. When all of these elements come together, belief takes root. And when it does, it changes how people work, how they interact, and how they solve problems. Organizations that thrive are those that recognize belief as their greatest asset. They understand that skills can be taught, but belief is what drives commitment. They know that strategy is important, but culture, rooted in belief, is what sustains them. They don't just measure performance in terms of output, they measure it in terms of alignment, passion, and impact. Because in the long run, the companies, teams, and individuals who win are the ones who believe in what they do. Trust is the foundation of every great team, every successful organization, and every meaningful relationship. Without trust, communication breaks down, collaboration suffers, and innovation stalls. Trust isn't built through rules, policies, or even experience alone. It's built on shared values. When people align on what they believe, when they operate from the same principles, trust develops naturally and effortlessly. And we often think of trust as something that's to be earned over time. And while that is true to some extent, there's something even deeper at play. Trust is not just about past actions. It's about belief in future actions. When we meet someone who believes what we believe, we assume they will make decisions that align with our values. We trust them, not just because of what they have done, but because we believe they will act in a way that is consistent with how we see the world. That's why shared values accelerate trust. In environments where people don't share the same values, trust requires constant validation. Every decision is scrutinized, every action questioned, and every mistake is met with suspicion. There's hesitation in communication because people are unsure of each other's intentions. And without trust, the default mode of operation becomes self-preservation. People guard their ideas, protect their interests, and prioritize themselves over the team. Collaboration feels forced, and the work suffers as a result. Now, contrast that with an environment where values are aligned. When people believe in the same purpose, they don't waste energy questioning each other's motives. They give each other the benefit of the doubt. They communicate openly and honestly because they know they are working toward the same goal. When one person succeeds, the whole team celebrates because they are all on the same side. They aren't competing against each other, they are pushing forward together. The best organizations understand this and work hard to foster shared belief systems. It's why great leaders spend more time reinforcing culture than enforcing rules. They know that when people feel connected by shared values, they don't need to be controlled. They hold themselves accountable. They trust each other to do the right thing because the right thing isn't dictated by policies, it's dictated by belief. This is why culture is so important. Culture isn't about perks, benefits, or the way an office looks. It's about a shared way of thinking and working. It's about reinforcing values that guide behavior even when no one is watching. When culture is strong, people instinctively know how to make decisions that serve the greater good because the values are ingrained in the way they think and operate. Think about a time when you worked with someone you deeply trusted. Chances are you didn't spend much time second-guessing their decisions. You didn't feel the need to check up on them constantly. You knew they had your back just as you had theirs. Now think about a time when trust was missing. The dynamic was completely different. Conversations were more calculated, cooperation was hesitant, and you probably spent more time managing relationships than actually doing meaningful work. The difference comes down to trust, and trust comes down to shared values. Trust also makes teams more resilient. When people trust each other, they can challenge ideas without it being personal. They can debate and push back, knowing that everyone is acting in the best interest of the mission. This creates a culture where people are free to think, innovate, and take risks. In organizations without trust, people avoid difficult conversations because they fear consequences. They play it safe, avoid risks, and stick to the status quo, not because they lack ability, but because they lack security. Leaders who prioritize shared values over individual performance create environments where people thrive. When values are aligned, people feel a sense of purpose and belonging. They aren't just working toward goals, they're contributing to something meaningful. They go above and beyond because they feel part of something bigger than themselves. They help their colleagues not because they have to, but because they want to see each other succeed. Building trust through shared values isn't about hiring the most talented individuals and forcing them to work together. It's about finding the right people, the ones who believe in the mission, who see the world through the same lens, and who are willing to put the collective goal ahead of personal gain. When that happens, work doesn't feel like an obligation. It feels like a shared journey towards something important. And when people feel that connection, they bring their best selves to the work, not because they have to, but because they believe in what they're doing and who they're doing it with. When building a team or an organization, it's natural to look for the most talented individuals. Resumes are scrutinized, skills are assessed, and experience is evaluated. But while qualifications and expertise are important, there's something even more critical to long-term success: belief. Skills can be taught, but belief is what drives passion, resilience, and commitment. It's what turns an employee into a team member, a leader into an inspiration, and a company into a movement. There's a common assumption that the most skilled individuals will naturally produce the best results, but skill alone doesn't guarantee success. A highly capable person who doesn't believe in the mission, who doesn't align with the values of the organization, can become a liability rather than an asset. They may be technically proficient, but without an emotional connection to the work, they lack the intrinsic motivation to go above and beyond. They do what's expected, but rarely more. When challenges arise, their focus isn't on finding solutions, but on minimizing their personal effort. They may look great on paper, but in practice they fail to contribute meaningfully to the larger goal. On the other hand, when someone believes in the mission, they bring an energy that can't be replicated by skill alone. They don't just complete tasks, they take ownership. They don't wait to be told what to do. They anticipate problems and act before they arise. They don't treat their job as a set of responsibilities, they treat it as a calling. This level of commitment isn't something that can be trained into someone. It comes from a place of belief, of connection to a cause greater than themselves. This is why the most successful teams are built not just with skilled individuals, but with individuals who align with the mission. When you hire based on belief, you get people who don't just show up for a paycheck, but for the opportunity to contribute to something they genuinely care about. They are more engaged, more innovative, and more invested in success. And because they share a common vision, they build deeper relationships with one another, creating a culture of trust, collaboration, and shared purpose. Leaders who prioritize belief over raw talent create organizations that are far more resilient. Talent alone may help a company thrive in good times, but belief is what sustains it through adversity. When belief is present, people stick with the mission even when times are tough. They don't jump ship at the first sign of difficulty. They see challenges as something to overcome rather than something to avoid. They persist because they care. Talent without belief, however, leads to disengagement the moment things get difficult. The second a better offer appears or an easier path presents itself, those who lack belief walk away, not because they are disloyal, but because they were never truly invested to begin with. Hiring based on belief also impacts leadership. The best leaders are not simply the smartest or the most experienced. They are the ones who inspire. And inspiration comes from conviction, from authenticity, from an unshakable belief in the mission they are leading. People don't follow leaders because of their credentials. They follow because they trust that the leader genuinely cares about the purpose behind the work. When leaders hire only for talent, they end up with teams that operate mechanically, without heart. But when leaders bring in people who share the same beliefs, they cultivate a culture of motivation and ownership, where people push forward together because they want to, not because they have to. One of the biggest mistakes organizations make is assuming that alignment will happen after hiring, that a strong onboarding process or a compelling mission statement will be enough to get people engaged. But belief doesn't work that way. If someone isn't aligned from the beginning, it's difficult, if not impossible, to manufacture that alignment later. It's why some of the most talented people fail in certain environments, while others who may not have the strongest resumes thrive beyond expectations. Skills can always be developed, but belief is intrinsic. When hiring, when building teams, when choosing who to work with, the most important question isn't, are they the most qualified? The most important question is, do they believe? Because when people believe in what they do, they bring energy, passion, and a sense of purpose. They build trust, they inspire those around them, and they push through obstacles with determination. They are the ones who make a real impact, not because they are the most talented, but because they care the most. Inspiration is one of the most powerful forces in the workplace. It drives creativity, fuels perseverance, and fosters a sense of connection to something greater than ourselves. People who are inspired don't need constant supervision or external pressure to do their best work. They are self-motivated, energized, and fully engaged in what they do. Inspiration turns an ordinary job into a meaningful pursuit and transforms a group of employees into a driven, unified team. Too often, organizations rely on traditional forms of motivation, salaries, bonuses, promotions, or performance-based incentives to keep people engaged. While these things have their place, they are not what makes people truly invested in their work. The problem with extrinsic motivation is that it only lasts as long as the reward is valuable. If a higher pay opportunity comes along, or if the promotion takes too long, engagement drops. People stop giving their best effort because their reason for working hard was external rather than internal. Inspiration, on the other hand, comes from within. It's a deep-rooted belief in the mission and the impact of the work, in the purpose that drives the organization forward. Inspired people don't ask, what do I get if I do this? They ask, how can I contribute? Their motivation isn't dependent on a financial bonus or a performance review. It comes from a belief that their work has meaning. When people are inspired, they take ownership of their responsibilities, not because they have to, but because they want to. They embrace challenges rather than avoid them. They invest in personal growth because they see their progress as part of something bigger. And this is why changing the system in order to address this massive burden feels so harmful and so difficult, that most people, they're engaged not only in their tasks, but also in the mission of the organization. A workplace that lacks inspiration feels different. In environments where people are not inspired, everything is a transaction. Every extra task needs an incentive. Every new challenge is met with reluctance. People do only what is required, never more. The culture becomes one of obligation rather than passion. Without inspiration, work feels like just a series of tasks to complete, rather than something meaningful to pursue. Teams become stagnant, creativity suffers. People disengage. They do what's necessary to keep their jobs, but nothing that pushes boundaries or leads to growth. Great leaders understand that inspiration is the difference between a workforce that needs to be managed and a team that leads itself. Inspired people bring solutions instead of waiting for directions. They don't need to be told to collaborate because they naturally want to support each other. They don't resist change because they are connected to the mission and trust the direction in which the organization is moving. Inspired teams move fast, adapt well, and push through difficult times because their work is fueled by purpose, not just obligation. Inspiration spreads through culture, leadership, and shared belief. When people see their leaders truly believe in the mission, it reinforces their own sense of purpose. When they see their peers invested and engaged, it motivates them to do the same. Environments that cultivate inspiration are built on trust, clear communication, and a sense of collective purpose. Leaders set the tone, but the culture sustains itself when belief runs deep. It's not about telling people what to do. It's about showing them why their work matters. People who believe in what they do don't need reminders to stay committed. They don't show up just to collect a paycheck. They show up to contribute to something they care about. Their engagement isn't tied to external rewards, but to their intrinsic connection to the work. They are proactive, energized, and fully present because their motivation comes from within. Organizations that prioritize inspiration over incentives create teams that are naturally high-performing. Work doesn't feel forced because people are aligned with the mission. Collaboration happens organically because people see themselves as part of a bigger picture. Challenges aren't seen as burdens, but as opportunities to contribute and improve. Inspired teams don't burn out as quickly because they are not pushing themselves just for rewards, but for something they deeply care about. Inspiration is what makes people take initiative. It makes them stay late, not because they have to, but because they want to see something through. It makes them innovate, take risks, and care about outcomes. Inspired people don't need micromanagement. They hold themselves to a high standard because they see their work as an extension of who they are. They show up each day not just to complete tasks, but to make a difference. When a team is aligned in belief, something extraordinary happens. Momentum builds. is not just about individuals working hard, it's about individuals working together, moving in the same direction with a shared purpose. Alignment is what turns scattered efforts into focused progress. It's what transforms isolated achievements into lasting impact. When people are moving toward the same goal, energy multiplies, creativity flourishes, and success becomes inevitable. Without alignment, work feels disjointed. People might be working hard, but their efforts are pulling in different directions, decisions take longer, collaboration feels forced, and progress is inconsistent. There's hesitation, confusion, and miscommunication because people aren't on the same page. They may have talent, they may have resources, but without alignment, there's no momentum. Instead of pushing forward as a unified force, the team struggles to maintain progress. Meetings are spent debating what to prioritize rather than executing with confidence. People question decisions instead of rallying behind them. There is resistance, not because the team lacks ability, but because they lack a clear sense of shared direction. Now compare that to a team where alignment is strong. In these environments, decision-making is faster because the foundation is built on trust and shared belief. People don't need to be convinced to take action. They already understand why the work matters. They don't hesitate to collaborate because they see their colleagues as allies, not competitors. There's an unspoken understanding that everyone is moving toward the same vision, so people naturally step up where they are needed, not just where their job descriptions dictate. Alignment doesn't mean that everyone thinks the same way or agrees on every detail. It means that the underlying purpose, the why behind the work, is clear to everyone. When that happens, teams become resilient. They navigate setbacks with confidence because they aren't reacting impulsively. They are adjusting course while still moving forward. They innovate not just for the sake of change, but because they understand what they are building together. When people believe in the mission, they are willing to take risks and make bold decisions because they trust that the direction is right. Momentum is a force that cannot be replicated through sheer effort alone. It's not about pushing harder, it's about moving smarter. It's what allows organizations to achieve in months what others take years to accomplish. It's why some teams seem unstoppable while others struggle to make progress despite working just as hard. Momentum is the result of alignment, and alignment is the result of shared belief. Leadership plays a critical role in fostering alignment. The best leaders don't just dictate strategy. They ensure that everyone understands and embraces the mission. They communicate with clarity, reinforcing why the work matters, not just what needs to be done. They create an environment where people feel connected to the larger goal rather than just their individual tasks. When leaders prioritize alignment, teams don't just follow instructions, they take initiative. They don't just execute tasks. They contribute ideas that push the mission forward. Culture also plays a role. Organizations that have a culture of alignment don't waste time debating whether they are on the right path. They focus their energy on executing, iterating, and improving because the purpose is already clear. These are the teams that move fast, adapt effortlessly, and achieve more with less friction. They don't get stuck in endless discussions about priorities because they already share the same guiding principles. When alignment exists, people feel a sense of momentum in their work. They show up excited because they can see tangible progress. They are motivated because they know their efforts are contributing to something meaningful. They stay engaged because they don't feel like just another cog in a machine. They feel like essential contributors to a larger mission. Momentum is not about speed, it's about direction. A team that is moving quickly but without alignment will eventually burn out or collapse under its own inefficiencies. But a team that moves with clarity and belief, even if they start slow, will eventually gain unstoppable momentum. When alignment exists, things that once felt difficult become effortless. Energy that was once spent debating direction is now spent making things happen. And the decisions that once required hours of discussion now happen naturally because everyone understands the mission. Organizations that prioritize alignment over urgency build teams that move with purpose. They don't waste time chasing short-term wins that don't serve the bigger picture. They invest in ensuring that every member of the team understands why the work matters. They reinforce belief so that alignment remains strong even in the face of challenges. When alignment is present, Momentum builds naturally. People move with confidence, act decisively, and push forward not because they have to, but because they believe in where they are going. Sustained success is never an accident. It's not the result of one brilliant strategy, a single talented individual, or even a short burst of hard work. True success, lasting success, is the result of consistency. It's the result of people showing up every day, committed to the mission, putting in the effort, and staying focused on what truly matters. It's the product of people who believe in what they are doing so deeply that their discipline becomes second nature. When people are driven by belief, consistency is not forced, it's natural. They don't have to be reminded to work hard or stay committed. They don't treat their job as a series of tasks to complete, but as an ongoing pursuit of something greater. There's a level of dedication that comes when belief is at the core, a persistence that keeps people moving forward even when motivation fluctuates. Those who operate purely on external motivation tend to waver. When things get tough, when excitement fades, when the work becomes repetitive, their enthusiasm drops. But those who believe show up anyway. They keep doing the work, refining their skills, improving their process, and pushing the mission forward. Organizations that achieve long-term success understand this. They don't rely on flashes of brilliance. They rely on the discipline of consistency. They don't pivot with every new trend or get distracted by short-term wins. They commit to their values and stick to them. That doesn't mean they don't evolve. Adaptation is part of growth. But their evolution is always guided by the mission, never by fear, trends, or external pressures. They remain steady in their belief, and that steadiness creates trust. Customers trust them, employees trust them, partners trust them. Because when people see consistency in action, they trust that the organization is built on something real, not something temporary. Trust is fragile in environments where inconsistency rules. Teams become disoriented when leaders constantly shift priorities, introduce conflicting strategies, or abandon commitments when things don't work immediately. When there is no consistency, people hesitate. They become cautious rather than committed, disengaged rather than invested. They stop giving their full effort because they aren't sure whether today's direction will be the same tomorrow. Excitement is difficult to command without incentive. So consistency and commitment are the only two ways to see progress rather than top seats. They don't know if their hard work will even matter in the long run. They become reactive rather than proactive, focus on self-preservation rather than contribution. The best teams operate differently. They don't need to be told what to do at every step because they already know the direction they are moving in. They trust the process, they trust their leaders, and they trust each other. They don't question whether their effort is worth it because they see the results that come from consistent work. They aren't looking for quick wins or instant gratification. They are playing the long game, the meaningful game, the game that actually leads to impact. Consistency also creates resilience. Challenges will always arise. Markets change. Strategies need to adjust. Setbacks happen. But those who believe in what they do are not easily thrown off course. They don't panic when results take time. They stay the course, knowing that meaningful success is built brick by brick, not through erratic leaps from one idea to another. They maintain their energy and effort even when progress isn't immediately visible because they trust that their belief-driven work will pay off. The most inspiring leaders set the standard for consistency. They show up with the same passion whether things are going well or times are tough. They don't let short-term difficulties shake their belief, and in doing so, they give their teams the confidence to keep going. Their words match their actions match their principles, and their principles never waver. People don't follow leaders because they have the perfect strategy. They follow because they trust that the leader won't abandon the mission when obstacles appear. Consistency also cultivates mastery. The best in any field, whether in business, sports, or the arts, achieve greatness not because of one breakthrough moment, but because of years of disciplined effort. They commit to the process, refining their craft, showing up day after day, improving bit by bit. Their success is not built on a single defining event, but on thousands of small intentional actions. Davi Menajre. The same principle applies to organizations. The ones that sustain success are those that put in the work consistently, regardless of trends, challenges, or external pressures. When belief drives the work, people don't look for shortcuts. They don't chase overnight success. They understand that the most meaningful accomplishments take time, effort, and persistence. They embrace the process because they see the bigger picture. And when people work with that level of belief, when consistency is a natural byproduct of shared purpose, success is not a question of if, but when. Culture is not what a company says it is. It's what people feel every day when they show up to work. It's the way decisions are made, the way people treat each other, and the energy that fills the room when challenges arise. A strong culture doesn't come from motivational posters on the walls or well-crafted mission statements. It comes from the collective behaviors, values, and beliefs of the people within the organization. When people believe in what they do, culture is not something that needs to be enforced. It happens naturally. A culture built on belief creates an environment where people feel connected to their work, their team, and the mission. They don't just show up because they have to. They show up because they want to. They are invested, engaged, and eager to contribute. In these environments, trust is high, collaboration is strong, and innovation happens organically. People feel safe to share their ideas, take risks, and challenge the status quo because they know they are working towards something meaningful. Contrast that with a culture where belief is absent. In these workplaces, people may still be talented, hardworking, and even successful, but something is missing. The energy is different. People operate with caution rather than enthusiasm. They do what is expected, but rarely go beyond it. They are motivated by personal gain rather than collective success. Conversations feel transactional, and trust is. Decisions are made based on policies and procedures rather than shared purpose. In environments like this, culture feels artificial. It exists in slogans, but not in practice. The best organizations understand that culture is built from the inside out. It starts with the people they bring in. When hiring is based purely on skill and experience, culture becomes fragmented. A team of highly skilled individuals who don't believe in the same mission will struggle to work together effectively. But when hiring is based on alignment of values and belief, culture strengthens naturally. It doesn't need to be micromanaged because it is lived by the people within the organization. Culture is also shaped by leadership. Leaders set the tone not through words, but through actions. When leaders embody the values they preach, it reinforces those values at every level of the organization. If a leader talks about the importance of trust, but micromanages every decision, the culture that develops is one of control, not trust. If a leader speaks about innovation but punishes mistakes, the culture that develops is one of fear, not creativity. People watch what leaders do more than they listen to what they say. When leaders believe in the mission, act with integrity, and remain consistent in their values, they inspire the same behaviors in others. Culture is reinforced through daily interactions. It's in the way people collaborate, the way they celebrate wins, and the way they support each other in difficult moments. It's in the way conflicts are handled, the way feedback is given, and the way recognition is shared. A strong culture is not built on grand gestures. It's built on small, consistent actions that align with the mission. Number 8, faith builds community. When people believe in the culture, they protect it. They don't allow negativity, politics, or toxicity to take root. They hold themselves and each other accountable to the values they stand for. They contribute not just to their own success, but to the success of those around them. They mentor, support, and uplift their colleagues because they see their growth as interconnected. A culture rooted in belief also creates resilience. Challenges and setbacks are inevitable, but when people are deeply connected to the mission, they don't break under pressure. They adapt, problem solve, and push forward together. In weak cultures, adversity creates division, blame is passed around, morale drops, and people look for an exit. But in strong cultures, adversity brings people close. They rally together, support one another, and emerge stronger because their belief is greater than the obstacles they face. Culture is not something that can be forced or fabricated. It cannot be built through perks, benefits, or company retreats alone. Those things may enhance a culture, but they do not define it. Culture is defined by what people believe in and how they show up every day. It is the heartbeat of an organization, the invisible force that either drives people forward or holds them back. Can you see how by presenting value and achievement, culture becomes an entirely different kind of culture? When people believe in the mission, when they trust their leaders, and when they feel a sense of purpose in their work, culture becomes the foundation for everything else. It is not something that needs to be managed. It simply thrives. So how do we find these people? It's simple. Start with belief. Define what you stand for, share it, and when you build a team, hire not just for talent, but for alignment. Look for the ones whose eyes light up when they hear your vision, the ones who lean in, the ones who say, I'm in. Because when we work with people who believe, we don't just build businesses, we build movements. We don't just complete tasks, we create impact. And we don't just work together, we inspire each other. So don't settle, surround yourself with believers, because that's how we change the world. Thank you.